Welcome to Pat Writes Books. The video you're about to watch is intended for mature audiences. It will likely contain an abundance of cursing, adult discussions, and worst of all, personal opinions. So chill out, grab a snack, and enjoy the show. Take it away, Sensei.
How's it going, everyone? It's Pat, your friendly internet wordsmith, and today I want to talk to you guys about foreshadowing. Have you ever been reading or watching something and you come across some peculiar detail that seems maybe a little out of place or a little peculiar, or something's just not quite right about this? And later on in the narrative, the bomb gets dropped and it turns out that this one detail foretold a bunch of crazy shit. Yeah, that's foreshadowing. And when you do it correctly, you usually can invoke one of two feelings in the reader. Either the reader will be super stoked because they put on their detective cap, sensed something was off, did a little sleuthing, and maybe they even guessed what was going to happen and now they feel super validated by that. Or maybe they're just simply awestruck and wondering how could they have missed something so awesome. And if you're lucky, this might even prompt a reread of your work. On the other hand, foreshadowing done poorly could result in your readers potentially feeling like they saw the big twist coming miles ahead of time and it just fell flat for them. Or perhaps they potentially could feel like this twist just came out of nowhere. It just dropped in out of the fucking sky and it's just completely unbelievable. There is a fine line here, but don't worry. I got you covered with some tips on how to get it just right. Starting with tip number 1, and that is don't go overboard with leaving hints. It can be really tempting to want to leave an abundance of clues for the reader, giving them a hint on what's going to happen at the end of the book. After all, you're putting a lot of time and dedication to this and you don't want it to fall flat. And with that being the case, you want to give the reader adequate chances to be able to guess what's coming. However, you also have to keep in mind that every clue that you leave is another chance for the reader to guess what's going to happen and lowers your chances to surprise the reader. Obviously, if you leave hundreds of clues throughout the narrative on the big event you're foreshadowing at the end, there's a strong chance that by the time the reader gets there, there's going to be no surprise for them. On to tip number 2, and this one kind of piggybacks off of the first tip a little bit, but in the opposite sense. And that's you don't want to leave too few hints for the reader. Just like you shouldn't leave too many clues, leaving not enough is just as problematic. Of course, it can be very tempting to leave little to no clues because when you do that, you pretty much guarantee that your reader isn't going to know what's coming later because you obviously didn't foreshadow the events. So, I mean, if they're able to guess it, I mean, they got to have like some God level perception there. The problem though when you do this is that the event that you're foreshadowing literally comes out of nowhere. And it can often give the vibe in your story that either there's a major plot hole you didn't think of, or you wrote yourself into a corner and like this is the only way you can possibly come out of it. And it feels like you were negligent when writing the story. The key here is to find the sweet spot in the middle. You want to leave just enough clues to where your readers can try to piece things together, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but not enough information to where it's blatantly obvious and there's no surprise at the end. Personally, I think leaving between 3 or 4 clues foreshadowing the big event, whatever it is at the end, I think that's a good number to shoot for. Tip number 3, you gotta make sure you spread out. I hit the fuck out of this thing. Tip number 3, you gotta make sure you spread out the clues in your narrative. So you've gotten your foreshadowing events down, and now you just gotta figure out where you're gonna place these breadcrumbs in your story. So the worst thing you can do here is hit your readers over the head with this information in rapid succession. And the reason for this is because when you do that, you don't leave a lot of time for your reader to stop and speculate what's gonna happen. I mean, think about it. How irritated would you be if in this video I asked you to guess the animal I'm thinking of, and it has a long tail, scales, comes in a lot of different colors, and it was a lizard? Yep. Should have been quicker on your feet. Make sure you spread your foreshadows out, and I mean really spread them out. Really what you want to try to shoot for is to let the mystery almost die out, like it's on the back of your reader's mind, they almost forgotten about it, and then you just bitch slap them in the face with more information. I know it sounds hard, harsh, but trust me, your readers will love you for it. Next up, my fourth tip is to make sure you drop these hints with subtlety. When foreshadowing, you don't want to be waving a bright red flag saying, yeah, pay attention to this shit is important. You know, plain Jane Mary Sue is actually the long lost goddess we've been searching for, or whatever the fuck the plot is of your story. Yeah, you don't want to do that. It should be obvious, but when you're heavy-handed with your foreshadowing, you run the risk of ruining the surprise for the reader. So really what you want to do is you want to be cryptic as fuck when it comes to foreshadowing. Whatever event or detail or whatever it is that, you know, you're using as a foreshadowing device, you want to invoke a feeling to where, again, the reader's like, oh, hold on, let me reread that detail. This is kind of weird. You want the reader to feel like something just isn't right with what they just read. And there's obviously something more there. But instead of giving them that more, you bitch slap them in the face and say, no, we're moving on with the story. We may or may not come back to that later. And again, I know that sounds harsh, but trust me, your readers will love you for it. And they might not admit it, but trust me, they will love it. Now, there are tons of ways you can do this, and my personal favorite is the abrupt insert of action. For example, let's say, I don't know, you're writing a story, your MC is treasure hunting, is the main goal of the story or whatever, main plot line, and they finally get their hands on the treasure. And when they hold it though, they get this overwhelming sense of deja vu, like they've held it before. They get this overwhelming familiarity with it, but obviously they've just heard about this treasure at the beginning of the book, so this can't be it. There's something obviously there. But the villains catch up, they enter the room. Well, now you can't explore that because now you're in a life or death situation where your MC has to, you know, escape or whatever. Doing something like that, presenting your foreshadow event and immediately saying, no, we're not going to explore that. You got to deal with this now. That's one way to present interesting information and just put the carrot on the stick and just pull the carrot back. And my final tip, you want to make sure the event you're trying to foreshadow is worth the effort in the first place. Foreshadowing builds hype for a future event in your story and gets readers looking ahead in the narrative. As a general rule of thumb, the more hype you build for this event, the more grand the reveal has to be. And yes, I mean has, as in it's mandatory. It needs to be a big thing. If you spend your entire book building up to this grand event at the end, and the twist just falls flat, then your readers are going to feel jaded. It's the same thing as if you're, you know, looking forward to a new game release or a new movie, and you've been watching the trailers. Trailers have been lit as fuck. You finally get your hand on the product, and it's just not popping. You oftentimes feel like you wasted your time and it wasn't worth your effort. Nobody likes that feeling, and honestly, this one's a lot more subjective. A reader can read your work and the foreshadowing may, you know, build up some incredible hype that the book doesn't lead up to or end with. And yeah, the reader could have enjoyed their time getting there, and it's more about the journey for them than the actual conclusion. You could have that experience. I mean, I've had that experience with watching the Soul Eater anime. Amazing show. I even still recommend watching the show, but that ending is hot garbage. However, I think everyone will agree that avoiding that feeling altogether is just the superior way to go. So when it comes to foreshadowing, you want to A, make sure the event that you're trying to build up to is an event worth building up to. And B, that when you finally make it to that event and you reveal it, that it leaves readers feeling like, damn. Even if it's something that they saw coming or were able to pick up on, you know, put their detective cap on and they were able to figure it out. And that's going to do it for this one, guys. Foreshadowing is a really fun aspect of writing. It's one of my favorites. And yeah, when done correctly, it can really leave a long and lasting impression on your readers, especially those who like to put on that detective hat, you know, get their Batman on and, you know, try to figure out what's going to happen at the end of the story. Before I go, I just want to remind you guys that my giveaway contest is still live. The giveaway for a $50 Amazon gift card. And all you got to do to win this is to first sub to the channel, and second, give a guess in the comments below onto what my lovely assistant's name is. I'll be accepting one guess per video, and remember that with every 10 subs we get, I'm gonna leave you guys with a hint to, help you in the contest. So make sure you spread the word to beef up your chances. And if I remember right, we're currently sitting at 4 subs on the channel. So 6 more and we'll go ahead and get you guys your first hint.
Thanks for kicking it with us. If you had a good time, go ahead and slap that like button. And if you're new, consider subscribing, because we do this every week. Of course, you're going to want to hit that bell too so you never miss an upload. Have an awesome day, achieve something great, and we'll catch you later.